We're seeing a growing trend in the industry for manufacturers to be collaborating, partnering, and making sure that their products integrate well with others. On this episode of A State of Control, we have representatives from two manufacturers whose role it is to ensure that their products do work well together. All that and more on A State of Control. A State of Control, episode 123. Everything's working great. Welcome to A State of Control, an AVNation podcast that highlights the control, programming, and automation aspects of the audiovisual industry. My name is Steve Greenblatt. I'm your host. Thanks for joining us today. So today we're going to talk about something I think is going to be really appealing to integrators and programmers out there, and that's about how manufacturers are partnering, collaborating, and also leveraging their API, which is always a topic that is near and dear to me. And when we talk about API, that's the application programming interface. So we're defining our terms. And we have two manufacturer representatives to speak with today. And before we get to say hello to them, I'm going to welcome here my partner at A State of Control, Rich Vergoza. Welcome, Rich.
Good to be here. I'm really excited about this one because we were laughing like before you were recording. I'm sitting here doing surgery on remote boxes that we have to custom configure. So. And
you and I always talk about the good old days, and I think that we'll see how things have progressed since then. So that's always a positive. So as I mentioned, two members of manufacturers that are in roles of partnerships and product management. And the first of them is Andre Vesa. He is from Shure. Welcome, Andre.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me. Appreciate being on here, and I'm excited for today's topic.
Great to have you. And Andre is the Alliances Manager at Shure. So there is one example of a title that definitely speaks to this topic. And last but not least, I'd like to welcome Shane Roma. He is the Product Manager at Legrand and also Mid-Atlantic, which is owned by Legrand. Welcome, Shane.
Thanks, Steve. I'm looking forward to it as well. We've talked a lot offline about this, so looking forward to talking about it today.
Thanks for being here. And these are two newcomers to the show and podcasts, so we're going to make sure that we make them feel at home, but they have really great insight to share, and looking forward to hearing from them. We have seen a lot of shift, as I mentioned earlier, about the direction that manufacturers have gone. We all kind of live through the idea that of closed ecosystems and single brand solutions, and that was something that seemed to work for some time, but post-pandemic and probably before then, there's been a shift to more collaboration, more partnerships. And if you are watching the news of the AV industry in 2024, you're seeing a lot of these being announced. Certainly AV Week, which is one of our, actually the flagship podcast of AVNation, covers them quite a bit. So Rich, let's get started with this. We have two manufacturer representatives that really they're tasked with making sure that their products work well with others, and I think that's something for us to really be excited about. What does this mean for the direction that the AV industry is headed?
Well, I think it's great. It's one of the things that we talked about, and we actually talked about it on previous shows, is that in the past, we didn't necessarily have to worry about devices having to make contact outside of the physical building. Everything was self-contained. So when something was self-contained, you didn't have to worry about diagnostics because you had to physically be there to check on it in the first place. Now that we've moved to software-based applications, it's something that I think it took manufacturers a little while to realize, oh, wait a second, we've been doing something the same way for 20 years. We didn't really take into account that although we've been focusing on a feature set of what it does, there wasn't necessarily the realization until problems happened of what happens if something doesn't go as expected. And I think that it took a period of time. And again, in I think a couple of years ago, we had this discussion at ISE with one of the application engineers. There's only so many application hours. There's only so many hours in the day that a manufacturer can distribute, in terms of workforce. And so, you've got your priority, which is continuing the product, building the product, features of the product, which is making it do more, setting a competitive advantage and everything else. Upkeep is a little bit of the orphan, it's the stepchild of that. And I think what happened, and we really are seeing it post-pandemic, when the real fact was that things were not necessarily going as expected from an equipment standpoint, and there was zero physical access to the space. Manufacturers were looking at this and went, we need to partner with our dealers better, and we need to give them the tools in order for us not to go, well, company XYZ has it, and now that's their competitive advantage. And I think what's happened now is that the conversation, they're seeing it as a competitive advantage. They're seeing it as a service to dealers. They're seeing it as a service to end users. But it took time, because it's really easy to stick with what you did, because there's an unknown. How much does it take to do it? How many application hours? What are the backwards ramifications if we do this? So I'm excited for it, and I'm glad to see it, and we're seeing it accelerate, and I hope it continues, because of all of these different verticals, there's not just one way.
I agree, Rich, and I think a lot of it is, like you mentioned, with the changing landscape and technologies nowadays, everything is moving much faster than it did in the past, right? Products are advancing faster than we can expect. Customers' expectations are therefore advancing faster than we can expect, right? So partnerships really allow for us to meet those needs, while working with other companies, right? The customer now has needs that, they want the best audio, the best video, all in one place, high quality, seamless integration. Partnerships and alliances with our companies make sure that we meet those customers' expectations and really deliver a promise to them.
Yeah, to augment that too, I think the customer expectations more and more, a few of the shifts is they just want it to work, and they want it to work seamlessly. But often you've got many different manufacturers in a single space providing that holistic experience, but the end user just wants it to work. So by having strong partnerships, by having strong integrations, you can have that environment where things do work together, even though maybe they are totally different companies, totally different spaces, but everything can work together because of those strong partnerships that allow things to work sometimes even out of the box, together with various different types of equipment and providing different types of experiences.
Let's play on that a little bit too, and I'll come back to you, Shane, on this. Um, how do you determine where those partnerships should land, and in selecting who to work with, what other manufacturers, or what are identifying those needs that need to be filled?
Feedback from our customers is really the biggest one, and I mean that's how we make all of our decisions. But it's what is that current landscape out there? What are our customers using? Whether that's integrators or even the other shift that we've seen is the end users are getting much more involved in these. It's no longer, hey, we want to do this conference room and maybe we'll do this one a year later. It's no, we want a holistic experience across internationally. We want a conference room in London to have the exact same experience in California, and we don't want different products, in those, and we want to standardize on it. So we look for those trends. We look for who the customers are using, and then the problems that need to be solved through an integration. So some of the obvious ones are going to be the control system partners. There are obviously some larger ones that we'll partner with just because they're so ubiquitous throughout the industry that it makes the most sense. But then there's even smaller ones too, whether it's for a large project or if someone's up and coming and we think what they're doing is providing a value to the industry, we might partner with them as well to have that native integration and maybe get in a little earlier. So it's a long way of saying it depends, but it's really that feedback from the customer of where can we provide the most value by identifying and working with key partners.
Yeah, and to echo what Shane just said, it all comes down to what the customer's needs are, right? I mean, if there's a customer that's already familiar with the company that they've been working with for a long time, they're familiar with their products, they love their products, they don't want to go to another option, but they see that there's another company out there that maybe specializes in an aspect of their experience, and they've seen that they're an expert in that field for a long period of time. It makes sense from a product and from a customer um, uh, kind of um, expectation point of view, right? To meet those needs and to make that partnership official, right? To kind of get them what they've already got, but expand on it and make it even better. So, for us at Shure, obviously, we bring a lot of um, the audio expertise that we have. So there's partnerships there where customers are already familiar with, a QSys or a Cisco, but they want to bring in a little bit more on the audio side, or they have some specific different use cases that are different than the usual use case that you would see. That's where a partnership makes sense, and it meets um, those needs that the customer has.
Yeah, I'll also say anything we can do to reduce friction too. So uh, those challenges that come up because I'm tied into this ecosystem, uh, this is what's already deployed, whatever it is, whatever we can do to reduce that friction to be able to provide that experience, that's probably one of the key outcomes of strong partnerships.
Who's driving that? Is it the product managers that are coming in now and saying, we need this? Is it coming from engineering up? Is it software? Because I think one of the questions that we always have um, when we're facing a challenge is, because with manufacturers, it's always been, it really is, it's that, we understand you're going to call us when you have problems. If you're looking for something, we'd like you to be part of the solution. So being part of the solution, sometimes, when you've got information or ideas, is what's the process? Who do we go to? Am I seeking out a product manager? Am I talking to engineering? Because there's only so many trade shows during the year that you can get face-to-face time. And I know that dealers don't want to complain. They really don't. They want to find that partnership. But how have you found successfully the process has been? Has it been internal, and then you've reached out and had advisory groups, or is it external? Like you said, it's customer driven. But where do the programmers, the integrators, how do they fall into that partnership, or how could they reduce the friction that you were talking about to be better partners?
Yeah. It really, I don't think there's a one size fits all answer to this question. I think every organization is very different. In our case, that's typically going to flow through the product managers. However, we're getting those data points from end customers. We're getting the data points through our own sales teams. We're getting those data points from our tech support. To your point, people generally aren't calling in and going, "Hey, I just want to let you know everything's working great. Have a great day." Right? They're only calling in for problems. I'll also tell you from being in just kind of our industry is also very self-sufficient. So a lot of times we don't know it's a problem until we've already lost an opportunity. So we'll hear about it later. And so my goal or our goal is, okay, how do we find out about that before it's lost? So a lot of it is getting out there, just going onto job sites, visiting customers, having empathy calls, virtually. COVID really actually helped with that, where people were much more open to have those virtual calls and having that proactivity. So it's really going to depend. If anyone, any customer wants to speak with me directly, I would love to, but yeah, how are they even going to know how to do that? So it's taking all of those inputs, being as proactive as we can. And part of it too is a shameless plug for Steve and his group, but we've also reached out to say, hey, what are you seeing? Right? Like we only see so much within our domain, but what are you seeing from the programming aspect that maybe we haven't noticed that we should be asking customers about, or trends that maybe you're seeing to try to stay up on it that way. So it's taking several different inputs before making that decision. But I think it's really going to depend. It's really going to depend on that organization. So I would say customers be vocal. If you have, if you've got contacts, whether it's sales reps or whoever your contacts are, be vocal. Ask for that person. Um, More than likely that that product manager is going to love to talk to you, because getting that customer feedback is what drives these solutions. So that would be my advice: is be as vocal as you can.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, Shane. I think for us too, it's not just the one way or one way that we can get that kind of feedback. There's multiple ways, right? I mean, our market development team, our sales team, they're looking for the feedback. They're checking in on these customers. They're getting feedback directly from them. Our customer support team is applications engineers. But like Shane just mentioned, that feedback is critical. And I I want to key in on one part of it specifically. I agree. A lot of times we only hear about when things are going bad. It's this is broken, this is not working, and that's of course always good feedback. Always we want to hear about that so we can address those issues and fix them. But that positive feedback is sometimes also very important. If you see a feature that works well for our product and something from another company that works well, you think that there's an integration idea that's missing, that something that could improve your experience as a programmer or what have you, let us know about it. You know, don't wait until there's a problem or there's something that's blocking you from moving forward on your project. Let us know about it ahead of time. Um, Let us know about anything that excites you. Right, that feedback is paramount because I'm sure as Shane knows, there's a long funnel of steps from when we get an idea to when it actually becomes a feature or a product. So the more feedback we have, the better, and we can really hone in on those things. And if we hear about it a lot, and there's a good basis for it, there's a chance that it'll become a product, it'll become a feature, and meet those needs.
Yeah, and to key on in on that too, the positive, nothing makes us happier than, hey, this thing you did, we love it for X, Y, and Z. Because sometimes we'll put things out into the world and we don't know how it was received. And if we know, if we get that feedback back, hey, we love this, this really solved the challenge for us, then we know, hey, this is something that we need to prioritize, whether it's putting into other products or for future products, make sure that that's at the top of the list, and we understand, what we're that we truly did solve a problem. Because I'm sure we've had it both ways, where we'll put things out in the world and it kind of falls flat on its face, but there's other things where you put it out there and you don't even know how successful it is till someone tells you almost offhandedly, hey, we decided to do this for this global deployment because of this one thing. Really? Like, we didn't, or a use case that we didn't think of, or things like that. It's great, and that can start those conversations too. So yeah, definitely don't, if obviously if things are going wrong, we want to hear from you, but hey, if things are going great and it's because of certain things, we'd love to hear that too.
Yeah, isn't it the best when you get that call and some customers using your product or your feature for something that you didn't even think about, and it's just like, great, I'm happy that works. Those are the type of things we love to hear about.
So one of the things that programmers are big on is forums, and you usually get a lot of insight from that. And is that something that you guys are look at, or are there anything and any ways that somebody could contribute to providing feedback in a constructive way that would be easy for both parties?
Yeah, I think forums are great, but I think having that direct feedback to customer support channels through um, sales or market development channels, things like that, um, can let us know, hey, this integration you guys did worked very well for us. This API feature that you guys released worked well. But more importantly, if there's an integration that uh, you know is not there, um, I think those communications work really well for that, right? I mean, um, echoing kind of what Shane said there too, like um, we've gotten a lot of good feedback working with our company too, Steve, Control Concepts, on use cases that the customers are using, right? There's plenty of times when there's use cases that it's not something that's top of the list for us as manufacturers, but it's a forward-thinking idea, right? Maybe in a couple of years it will be at the top of the list. So yeah, forums um, are very good. Direct feedback to us, emails, anything like that, um, helps us kind of navigate and steer the direction of some of the products that we have coming up in the near future.
Rich, I'll kind of bring this over to the programmer side. Um, this trend, I think, is very encouraging. It makes programming easier. It probably addresses a lot of the frustration. How can programmers help to make products more um, easy to control or integrate? Having an API is certainly a first step, and being able to have API integrations are great. But a lot of times, a programmer that doesn't really have the voice that would matter. At least the way we've historically, is that something that you see changing?
I think little ripples make big ripples. I think that, and Shane and Andre brought up a great point. And again, never working from the manufacturer side, it's always great to get these viewpoints, because you forget when you're on the other side. The manufacturers aren't the adversary, right? They're not giving you stuff, and they don't want their stuff to break. They don't want their stuff to be incompatible. They don't go out and go, we got them this time, just you wait, right? But it's tough, from the manufacturer side. I mean, from the product manager side, it's your baby, and somebody's calling your baby ugly. Nobody likes their baby being called ugly. So partnership is a two-way street. And I think that sometimes from integrators, because you're under stress, you're under pressures, maybe something didn't go the way that you anticipated to, or a device didn't work the way that you wanted to. The first thing is, right, from a manufacturer side and from the support side, right, you get the call where you're like, here we go again, right? And it's tough. It's tough to be proactive when you're in an echo chamber of negativity. Not to say don't pipe up when something isn't working, but it really is sometimes, like Shane was saying, going, this worked great, by the way. Maybe somebody didn't tell you, but this is how we implemented it, and ... I know there's instances where dealers have come up with solutions and come up back to the manufacturers and said, this is what I did, right? Don't sell it. Don't give it to anybody else, but this is what I did. Again, being part of the solution means being active in the solution. And you then get that reciprocity. Steve and I, we have great relationships with a lot of our manufacturers because of our press and the way his company is structured, the way my company is structured. But that was built from a willingness to create something bigger and to step outside, getting caught in the trap of, I'm under stress, this project and this happened and somebody yelled at me. And so now, let me speak to your manager. And so if you are looking to be an active part of the manufacturer's process, it is being there and being active and again, introducing yourself to the product manager, being on the forums, reaching out to somebody who is a tech support representative. And Steve does it and I do it. Sometimes, like literally when we've had a hard time with an issue and we know that tier 2 or engineering has spent the time with us and spent all day figuring out the problem, when we're done, we reach out to everybody that they report to and say, by the way, here's what you did, and this is why we appreciate it. That goes a long way, because then whoever is reading that or is receiving that can go to the rest of the team and to their reporting, to whoever they report to, and say, hey, look, we've got somebody who's engaged. We really need to keep them engaged. The way that it works, is that you show that from our side as well, that we're looking to meet in the middle. And again, it's never going to be perfect. We're never going to get 100% of what we want. And so learning the art of the compromise of development cycles, how something's going to be far reaching. Say you want something for a boardroom. You have no idea how it's going to affect government or corporate or education or broadcast, because you want what you want. And so, and I think we've spoken about it a lot, is that participation is, if you're going to take the next level in your career as a programmer, as an integrator, or anything else, Stephen and Mark Levecchia, had the technical manager group, right? There's lots of ways to be involved to get the information in your herd out in a way that's going to be accepted. And in a way that's going to be taken with the love that it's really intended for.
I think to add to that, with as we started talking about this at the beginning of the conversation, kind of how products have evolved and software has added a lot to this. The importance of that feedback is huge for us. And I think that communication channel will only get better as we move forward. I think it's strong now, and it can only get stronger, right? And to Rich's point, not every customer scenario is going to be considered when you make a product. It's almost impossible to think of everything that a customer is going to think of. However, that feedback kind of allows us to set a net as large as possible and gives us the best chance of creating products and features that work for as many customers as possible. And to the earlier point about partnerships and kind of how some of this comes back to that. We as manufacturers have taken a strong step in collaborating with partners to make sure these integrations stay intact, right? So, back in the day, as we started talking about closed ecosystems was the main part. Now with these partnerships, a key part of that is communication is a lot easier. With the tools that we have to collaborate, we can get feedback a lot faster with our partners. We can have better documentation about what's expected of our products, about our features. We can give feedback to each other and say, we have this customer that used your product in this way, and this gives us an idea for something in the future which we can integrate on, right? So, all kinds of things like this that we're working on for our partners to make sure that the customer's best interests are always kept in mind, right? And testing the products before they're released is a big part of it. Making sure that I came out with an update for my microphone that does this and this, and we just want to make sure that it doesn't have any issue with your camera solution, as a partner relationship. Doing all of that before it ever gets to the customer is a big part of some of the things that we're doing now as manufacturers to make sure that all of the integrations that are in place are still functioning, but then also like future integrations can still take place, right? Like we're still working with these partners to, as manufacturers, we're still working to develop new integrations and new possibilities for the future. And I think it's all with customers' best interest in mind.
Yeah, for certain partnerships with manufacturers are critical. To go back to some other things you were saying, the partnerships with our customers, the customers that we can make true partnerships with. Sometimes horrible situations turn into our best customers when it comes to that partnership, because we were able to work together to find the solution. There was a lot of give and take, and then we remember that, they remember that, and next time we have something, an update, guess who we're calling to say like, hey, we're thinking about doing this. We want to make sure we're considering everything though. I've had many ideas that I thought were good that when I reached out to partners, I found out were terrible. And I would be told why, and there would be things I just didn't consider. And we try to catch that before release. try to make sure that we're not doing things that are a detriment. So those partnerships are just so critical on both manufacturer and the customer side of things. So yeah, definitely. I know we're kind of echoing it a lot, but reach out. Have those conversations. Put yourself out there. If you're willing to work with us, we're going to be more than happy to work with you and find those solutions together. Not make it a one-way street. Certainly not in any sort of mode of telling customers what they should want. I think that's a recipe for disaster. I always say our jobs are actually pretty easy. Customers tell us what they want. We look for patterns. How can we provide the solution to the problems that they're identifying, and then we do it. But we only do that through that customer feedback, and then able to work with our partners, whether it's Control Concepts, whether it's the manufacturers or cloud services or whatever it is. It all kind of ties together, and it doesn't work in isolation with just one. It works kind of holistically of all of our different partnerships with manufacturers, programmers, end customers, integrators, et cetera, to bring it all together.
Wonderful place for us to wrap that up, and certainly on a high note. And I like that. I was actually going to key in on the fact that a partnership is something that is ongoing. It's not just something that is done to be able to get attention and make an announcement, but more so something that needs to be nurtured and maintained. And you guys did a great job of explaining that. So thank you both very much for being part of this. And I look forward to having you on again to continue this conversation and maybe speak more about the other areas of your expertise. Andre Vesa from Shure, how can people get in touch with you, continue this conversation, learn more about Shure?
Yeah, best place is on LinkedIn, Andre Vesa. Feel free to reach out. I'm happy to continue the conversation, ask any questions. Yeah, this was great. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks for being part of it. And Shane Roma from LeGrand and Mid-Atlantic, how can people get in touch with you, learn more about either LeGrand AV, Mid-Atlantic, or and continue this conversation in any way?
Yep, same. LinkedIn. Search my name. I'm pretty sure I'm the only one. So you can find me there, message me on there, and yeah, happy to chat.
And if anybody has any questions as to why or how to provide feedback, these guys are making themselves available. So please take advantage of that. And I could tell you from firsthand experience that both of them are very passionate about this. So thank you. And Rich, another great episode. Any final thoughts, and how can people get in touch with you and continue this conversation?
First I wanted to thank Andre and Shane for just providing kind of a day in the life and some transparency from the manufacturer side. I think it often goes underappreciated. And so just wanted to personally tell you guys thanks, because again, you take enough rib shots, you spend your time covering up all the way through. But it is something that from a programmer's and integrator standpoint, reach out and you would be surprised how it can make their day when they realize that they're doing good work. We sometimes just want to know, hey, we're on the right track. So if anything to take out of it is that, you have individuals, you have people who are on the other side of the manufacturing name. It's not just this conglomerate. It's still made up of people who are passionate about what they do, who are just as passionate about what they do as what we do. So yeah, this is great. I love opportunities like this because I think it often goes unnoticed, the work it takes for them to deliver products like this to us. And what a big shift. This is a big lift to be able to do it, because you're dealing with not only the technical side of their equipment and how we use it, but how this lives in just the IT ecosystem itself. So kudos on that. Next thing you're asked is if you want to, now again, find them, but if you want to find me, if these guys want to find me, you can find me on LinkedIn, all the socials at rfragosa, X, the Facebooks, the interwebs. But hopefully the website, fragosadesign.com. But hopefully, as I always say, I really hope that where you find me is here on AVNation.tv with my partner, Steve, or any of our other suite of shows, Resi Week, AV Week, and all of the other shows that deal with all of our other verticals. And first and foremost, please support our sponsors.
Thank you so much. And the way you could find the show too is just so that everybody knows, we do a video version that's found on YouTube, and there's an audio version. Whichever one you're listening to or watching now, check the other one out. The audio is on all of your favorite podcast players. And, please leave us a rating review. Let us know what you think. We also would like some feedback. So as much as product managers and manufacturers would like to hear from you, we would as well. And we'd like to know what you think of these topics, and if you have some ideas for what we should be covering in the future, because that's why we're here. We want to make sure that we're hitting the mark as well. For me, you can reach me at Steve Greenblatt on social media. My company, Control Concepts, is at controlconcepts.net. And as Andre and Shane very cordially said, we do work with a lot of manufacturers and help programmers with the building blocks that they need to be successful. So you could check some of those out on our website. Please continue to listen and watch, and let us know what you think. And until next time, this has been A State of Control,
the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.